Oh, it worked. All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Trade Pros. Good morning, YouTube. Today, I will be doing the morning YouTube update. Looking a little messy today, but we're back in the office. And let's talk about what happened overnight. Let's talk about what's going on right now as we get ready for this US market open. So the futures are up, as you guys can tell. Global indexes have surged after Wall Street yesterday staged a dramatic turnaround on stimulus. So we're getting a lot more stimulus. We'll talk about that shortly. And the expectations of easing tensions between the US and China, along with developments of coronavirus vaccines. Now, there was a big turnaround on Wall Street yesterday and overnight as we saw the 2.5% drop pretty much erased from last week on the word that the Fed would start buying individual corporate bonds on top of the ETFs that it's already purchasing. So this contradicts the proposed capitalism, it seems. This system that we live in or claim to live in would not really necessarily be like this continuous buying and corporate bond buying, but the Fed continues to prop up the market while others don't really care. So this means that the Fed is helping corporations out directly by debt purchasing and increasing cash on hand, which could be used many different ways. One could be stock repurchasing or buybacks or innovation, whatever is good for the equity markets. It's continuously pressing them higher. Now, futures are adding to the gains this morning amid reports that the Trump administration is preparing a $1 trillion infrastructure proposal, as well as an executive order to reform police. Now, in terms of oil news, we've seen the demand that is expected to drop by 8.1 million barrels a day in 2020, slightly less than forecast in May, before rebounding by a record of 5.7 million barrels per day in 2021. So far, initiatives in the form of OPEC Plus agreement and meeting of G20 energy ministers have made a major contribution to restoring stability to the market. However, we do not underestimate the enormous uncertainty. So we've seen oil pop on some of this news. We're now currently trading around the open at 38.56 or so, 55. Don't see the exact number, but around there, pretty significant rally from what we've seen yesterday and the prior days of last week. While investors are still holding a lot of cash, everyone. So investors have rarely been this flushed with cash, and we're grappling with one of the most economic uncertain times that we've seen in decades. And we've seen a lot of volatility in the US stock markets. A lot of investors have actually rushed into money market funds. And assets in funds recently swelled up to $4.6 trillion, so nearly $5 trillion in cash or liquid assets. Now, this is the highest level on record. And according to the data of Refinitiv Lipper, going back to 1992. So assets in money market funds are one, but not the only measure of cash holdings, as we've seen investors have cash in other places. So just like bank deposits and other vehicles are also extremely high. So analysts attribute the flight to cash to the coronavirus pandemic, which has spurred a rush out of stocks, bonds, commodities, you name it, while stimulus checks have also sent millions of Americans have been sent to millions of Americans as part of the economic rescue package, and that adds to the cash heap on hand. Now, it is also the latest perplexing signal in markets coming as a lot of investors are already struggling to reconcile the economic downturn stemming from the coronavirus pandemic with the simultaneous staggering rally that has pulled back these indices that we see today, about 35% off their lows from late March. NASDAQ has hit all-time highs. The S&P has rallied pretty significantly into the 3,200 level, about 200 points away from all-time highs. But NASDAQ traded in the 10,000s. It's currently trading just shy of that 10,000 level. The overnight high is 999. So 4 nines, 1 point away from that 10,000 level. So the new coronavirus cases have accelerated in more than a dozen US states as summer weather and reopening has pushed a lot of people to gather. And pressing officials to weigh in on the next steps. So, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo threatened to reverse the reopening in parts of the state for people not acting right and not following the safety rules. So, President Trump indicated that there are no plans to postpone this weekend rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So, despite mounting concerns from locals about the potential spread of coronavirus, and we've seen cases surpass the 8 million mark, there is no real indication that this rally will be postponed. So, the FDA has revoked its emergency use authorization for the two malaria drugs, as we know. So, hydroxychloroquine and chlorine, I guess, so touted by Mr. Trump and others to be used in treating the COVID-19 cases. So we've also seen a lot of travel plans evaporate naturally, as we'll talk about soon. But we've seen an outbreak from Beijing, as we talked about yesterday. So parents are urging kids to stay home, even in areas that are reopened. So Europe's vastly reopened, but we're seeing cases start to rise in Europe, which is going to help us actually scale back. So we'll see how Europe handles this. And in other American news today, so yesterday actually, they denounced the killing of Rayshard Brooks, a 27-year-old black man that was fatally shot by the police on Friday, and demanded an end to police brutality. So the shooting is being investigated by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and has reinforced calls from the police reform arising from nationwide demonstrations that followed the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Now, President Trump will sign an executive order today setting incentives for police forces to adopt best practices for use of force and creating a trafficking program for bad officers, officials said. So we are seeing a lot of police reform throughout the world and the US. Now, after months of doing their jobs from home, we've seen a lot of executives and employees actually say that all business travel may not be necessary and may change a lot in the future as we see it. So they've been handling a lot of meetings with clients, other executives through video conferencing. So they've actually said, a lot of executives have said that this is the way that they're going to proceed for the near future, and there's no issue with that. So that could hurt a lot of traveling in the future, as we've seen these one-day trips from executives constantly going back and forth. Now, after months of doing their jobs from home, it seems that we are changing how a lot of businesses, executives, employees, everyone interacts. We've seen Shopify here in Canada has pretty much closed all its offices, given employees bursaries to actually purchase office equipment, so they're working from home. So we could see a shift in the work culture in the coming years due to this pandemic. Now, in other business news, we've seen restaurants shut down by pandemic. Now they must deal with finding money to relaunch and also debt that they've accumulated. While United Airlines will follow rival American, mortgaging its frequent flyer program to secure multi-billion-dollar loans. In Asian news, we've seen North Korea blow up an inter-Korean liaison office on its side of the border on the divided peninsula. So, in what is the most serious provocation by an isolated state in years, the move, which seems designed to draw maximum global attention without risking an outbreak of further hostilities, came only days after Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong, I want to butcher it, but issued a statement saying that it's about high time that they break their ties with South Korea. Now, there are also tensions at other regional long-running border disputes with India, saying that three of its soldiers died in a clash with Chinese troops at a section of their unmarked frontier in the Himalayas. So we've seen a lot of news overnight nationwide, and we're going to continue to see a lot of news today, a lot of news that will impact markets. So U.S. retail sales are forecast to jump more than 8% in May, following the 16.4 crash in April. And the real number that came in today was about 10% higher, just shy of that mark, 17.7% retail sales beat, which helped out a little push in this equity market as we see potentially the economy coming back. Now, industrial manufacturing production for the month is going to be released at 9:15 in just a few minutes, and we'll also potentially see a rebound in those numbers. While Jerome Powell is testifying to Congress, which is going to be the focus of today, and Fed Vice Chair Richard Clarida is also speaking later. Now, President Trump is scheduled to sign an executive order on policing. Oracle Corporation, Groupon are among those companies that are going to be reporting results. Now, in today's session, we've seen a lot of upside. The equity market has rallied pretty significantly into just shy of these 3160s in the futures market. We've seen a crazy rally overnight. Just yesterday, in the evening session, we actually tested under that 3,000 level, and now we're so far away, it doesn't even seem like a reality anymore. We could see a little pullback into the morning session just off the open. I wouldn't be surprised to see it come down to these low 3100s, just shake out all these late longs, just reconfigure the market a little before we do end up popping higher. We could ride a lot of this news, or we could get a lot of profit taking come out and see a slip later on into the week. So I could see a lot of upside today. We've seen oil rally pretty significantly, nearly into that $39 level. We're just seeing a pullback right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see a little pullback maybe into that VWAP area before we do get a pretty significant pop into maybe the end of the week. We'll see a lot of profit taking from that market as well. So having said that, guys, YouTube, thank you for joining me today in this morning market update. We're just going to head on over to our trading room and see what we've got this morning and trade with the team. So if you guys want to join us, just check us out, and we'll see everyone tomorrow. Take care, everyone.